mental health reform service.
Deputy Pringle.
10 years on, Vision for Change, we're still waiting for the full implementation of it. And when you consider that poor mental health costs the state around about €3 billion a year, surely the provision of €35 million a year wouldn't be too much to ask to actually help to achieve the Vision for Change, to ensure that people can get services when they require them and when it's absolutely desperate. Much has been made of the difficulty in recruiting staff, but that has a very real difficulty out on the ground. Recently, I had a need to contact a mental health team in North Donegal to try and get the nurse to call to somebody's son who was in bad need of help, and the family were very worried about them. But yet there was no nurse available in that team, so they basically just couldn't deal with the issue. Then in South West Donegal, because the psychiatrist had retired and hadn't been replaced or a locum put in place, people presenting with issues couldn't actually get referred on or get the treatment lined up for themselves because there was no psychiatrist available there. And you have situations then where a psychiatrist is trying to cover the whole county, and it's just not acceptable at this stage that that should be allowed to continue. And the impact that it has on people right across the state is immeasurable, and people are going without treatment and left without services. And for the sake of €35 million a year, it's not too much to ask that could be provided for, and could be ring-fenced funding to ensure that the Vision for Change would be implemented. If it wasn't for NGOs and the groups like the family support centres, I know in South West Donegal they're overrun with counselling requests for children and young people to assist them, and they can't keep up with the demand. But yet this government slashes their funding by 38%, as has been outlined over the last few years. And they are the bodies that are filling the gaps that are left because the Vision for Change isn't being implemented and isn't being resourced to be fully implemented. And they are filling in those gaps. And then the NGOs, you get groups like Belong To, who drafted and piloted in Donegal a very successful programme called Safe and Supportive Schools to assist LGBT young people in schools. Now, that programme has been rolled out across the country, but it needs to be funded, and it needs to be resourced to make sure that it can achieve what it sets out to do. And it can make a difference, and by building that awareness amongst children and young people, it will help them and it will support them in their needs. But we still will be here in the next couple of years. We'll have another motion next year as well, wondered where the €35 million went to, and that's the problem. And unless you address that and stand up to that and deal with it and implement a Vision for Change, we will continue to have motions like this.